Local Edition. Brad Pomerance here, joined by Sid Robinson. He is back. He is a councilman from the city of Upland, California, just inside San Bernardino County. I think it's fair to say the voters of Upland have spoken loudly and clearly. In November, there was a measure on the ballot to permit 3 medical marijuana dispensaries to open. It was soundly defeated. Recently in June, there was Measure E. Tell us about Measure E.
Measure E came about as a result. Back in the fall, the City Council had approved an ordinance which would effectively put a ban on a lot of the commercial activities that would be associated with marijuana. This is cultivation, warehousing, manufacturing, labeling, packaging, distribution, and so on.
So that would include brick and mortar as well.
Oh, absolutely.
So
yes.
it was an ordinance to ban it.
And it was real, again, directed toward the commercialization.
Okay.
And so, and this is not unlike most cities around. So this was, we were not unique, but this was one that we looked at it as being pretty ironclad. And so not long after that was passed by the City Council, a group, and in fact, we believe it was the group that was behind Measure U, the other one. But they put together what ended up getting the signatures, a referendum to give the City Council 2 choices: either go against and repeal the ordinance that had been passed, or to call for a special election. And so our council, we said, no, this is something that the public has spoken on. We're going to go ahead and have a special election at a great cost, too.
What's interesting is that was done even though Measure U was so soundly defeated.
It was actually, that process had started before the November election. So, so Measure E comes along, this happens in June, and talk about being soundly supported for the ban. 73.4% of the Upland voters voted to support this ban.
That's a shellacking for those that supported the repeal of this ordinance.
Yeah, it really is. And it's not a surprise because of what we saw with Measure U, but also even the statewide measure that passed in November, Proposition 64, Upland voters, if you just singled out Upland, did not support that.
It's interesting because it passed, we're talking about 64 statewide, 57-43. Every SoCal county passed it except Imperial and Kern, and that would include San Bernardino County where you sit. So even though your county passed it, your voters said no.
Yeah, City of Upland was, I believe 54% voted no on 64.
What is it about this legalization of marijuana where it seems Upland is just not interested?
I think what we've seen is there is a part of town where Upland has been seen as vulnerable, not having the strength and the numbers of police force to enforce what's happening. We've seen, like all cities, we're not unique, illegal dispensaries pop up. And and so now I think with
But could one argue, I'll just play it out.
Sure.
If you allowed a legal dispensary, you wouldn't have an issue. Because there'd be one, let's say, maybe just one. You put it where there are no schools, no churches, no parks, no libraries, and then the police know where everyone's going. Although if it's legal, it shouldn't matter. Could one not make that argument?
In a perfect world, sure. But in reality, that wouldn't be the case at all. And let me tell you why. What's happened with the legalization, certainly on the statewide level, what you're seeing is the state itself is going to add a 15% excise tax, if you will, on the sale of legal recreational use marijuana. With that...
But you're not done, if I may interrupt you, because it's 15% excise, then there's a cultivation tax on the flowers and leaves, then there's the sales tax, and then if a city and the county wants to tax, they can too.
So all of a sudden what you've got at those legal operations is something where the cost may be way up here. Those black market
do you think
operations are going to thrive?
Yeah, and let me ask you about that, because I wonder, I think it's a fair conversation. What does happen? Does the taxing of legal marijuana become so great that you can just get a better deal on the streets?
You know what?
I don't know. I know we're not experts. No, but I think it's a fair conversation because look, there have been many cities that have chosen to accept legal marijuana, and they're trying to figure out the taxing element.
I think there's a lot of things that everybody's trying to figure out now, including the state, which has, they said that at the state level they hope to have regulations in place by the first of the year in 2018, and from what I'm understanding,
right,
not even close yet.
Are you concerned, though, that, look, if marijuana is legal, people can buy it, they will want to buy it, and if they need to buy it, they can't buy it in Upland. I don't know what the closest city would be. Is San Bernardino allowing it?
San Bernardino's got some issues where I think they have places where it will be allowed.
And how far is San Bernardino from Upland?
Well, I mean, from my...
To drive?
It's 25 minutes.
So not too far.
No.
But look, driving while under the influence of marijuana arguably may not be as hurtful as alcohol in terms of the psycho. Well,
that can be argued too,
but
and I'll tell you why, Brad.
Concerned.
Because we're not talking about the marijuana of the 70s and the 80s, where the THC was 3%.
Right.
You're talking about things that and you look at what's happening in Colorado and Washington, but you're talking in excess of 30% THC. So that's a different drug.
So that begs the question then: do you really want people driving to San Bernardino 20, 25 minutes? Maybe they'll hit traffic. Maybe they'll get stoned while they're there, and then they drive back home into Upland.
Well, but who's to say that's what they're going to do? And so, I think that to speculate, I think would be irresponsible to say, well, we're going to make it legal in our city because we don't want them driving to San Bernardino. That's not the answer.
But I will say this, though. There is something that they can do. Under the passed, indoor cultivation is permissible.
It is.
Up to 6 plants.
Exactly.
Not for sale.
And really what this ban that was voted on and supported by, it does not impact what was passed at the state level.
Right. It
And
can't.
so personal use is still going to be allowed, and people can have their, be in possession. They can cultivate in their own house. They and it doesn't interfere with the medical legality where marijuana is concerned. So
what's so interesting, if I may, Sid, I don't mean to interrupt.
Sure.
But one of your sister cities in San Bernardino County is Adelanto.
Mm-hmm.
I think you know where I'm going.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Adelanto, I wouldn't call it part of the lefty liberal coast. They're going full bore they're doubling down on marijuana.
Yeah.
I mean, they are creating huge indoor cultivation facilities.
Yeah.
And it's in your county, and it's a pretty darn red area, but yet they're saying it differently.
Yeah, and that's fair. That's fair. They are looking at it from the agricultural perspective. And for one, Upland is not zoned right that. We don't have the space for that type of thing, but not that would necessarily be the way we would want to go. But I think there's still a lot of things that have to play out. And my personal opinion is Upland is not in a position to be that beta test city to see what's going to be right and wrong. Let's let this play out, because I think that there are a lot more bumps in the road than people expect, even in Adelanto. And we'll see. And I say that because I hear of a story in Colorado where everybody, and it's making all sorts of money for the state. Now, for individual cities, there've been a lot that have started and have actually enforced bans. I've heard of somebody who was a grower who, went in with head first enthusiasm, has since stopped growing and cultivating and has turned to tomatoes and is making a better business that way. So
it is an interesting time that we're in, not just on marijuana, but so many various issues that are being presented before us. I want to thank you for joining us, Mr. Robinson.
Always
he is
a pleasure.
Sid Robinson. He is a councilman in the city of Upland inside San Bernardino County. My name is Brad Pomerance. Glad you're joining us on Local Edition. Did only marijuana.